So there's an article in Bleeding Cool talking about Spawn 310 selling more than 100,000 copies. And I've been wanting to do a story about this ever since I saw Spawn 309 hitting 70,000 copies, which is a 25% increase in orders from the previous issue's orders. And, it's interesting because Bleeding Cool talks about this like, well, maybe the industry is really turning around because Spawn is doing really, really well. And, the success of Spawn got a huge boost with Spawn 300. They went all out, got a lot of attention, executed really well. People were really interested in it. But Spawn doesn't necessarily indicate what the future of the comic book industry is. We'll get into this article. Before we do, definitely subscribe to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. It's a huge help to me. I really appreciate you doing that. And, let's get on with the article. So in the article, we mentioned that the Department of Truth #1 had topped 100,000 copies sold by the time the final cutoff came through last weekend. It seems it's not alone from Image Comics, as their second title has also reached a similar number. So this is Department of Truth. Department of Truth is an interesting, conspiracy high concept title. Why is it selling so many copies? Well, it's an interesting concept, but the reason it's not selling 3,000 copies is because there was a lot of coverage on it from their splashy Hollywood deal. So they were on TMZ, they were in Hollywood Reporter, they were kind of all over the place, and they were heavily promoted. So that is a unique thing. It's great. They had some success with it. It's not something that's going to be repeated on a regular basis. Maybe for a couple of additional issues, they'll sell additional numbers, but it's not sustainable. It's not something that typically happens again and again. Spawn's 300, that was a big, big boost for Spawn. But again, unless there are other titles that are going to be like Spawn that are being produced since 1992 at this type of a level of quality and focus from Todd McFarlane. I mean, how many other comics are being published consistently with Todd McFarlane or anyone else at his level's oversight every month, relatively speaking? I believe he missed a couple of months. But come on, that's a long, 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 long time of consistent publishing. Of course, he's going to create interest in that. And people like the idea. It's a cool idea. So let's go on with the article. So Spawn 310 by Todd McFarlane and Jim Mooney also hit 100,000 and more orders. A six-figure number is nearly unheard of for launch issues, and while Spawn managed that for 300 and 301, it appears that orders are rapidly rising on previous issues, along with a good chunk of the comics industry, we are hearing. Because it's the only title probably that comic book stores can count on and know that, all right, yeah, there's going to be something cool going on with Spawn. It's going to come out. He's not going to all of a sudden change his gender in the middle of the issue and try to tell you if you're voting for the right political candidates. It's just going to be cool, and it's going to be Spawn. And that's what Todd McFarlane says in interviews. People ask him about how he's successful. It's like, well, he had a cool idea. He could tell it was cool because he tried it and people liked it. And then he just kept doing cool things with it, from the comics to toys, and then a movie, and then animation, and now he's got another movie coming. It's just because it's cool and people like it, and he does it consistently, and people can count on it. So as they say, previously we reported a 25% increase in orders from Spawn 308 to 309, and then that 309 orders totaled an impressive 70,000 copies. But with this latest issue outdoing its previous triumphs of hitting 100,000 copies, it begs the question, what will we see Spawn 300 hit? The thing is it doesn't matter. It's not going to be 10 million copies. It's not going to be 2,000 copies. It's not indicative that the industry is doing great. It's not indicative that the industry is doing badly. It just means that Todd McFarlane put out a cool idea back in 1992 that he was passionate about since the 1980s. This is something he always wanted to do, this character. He did the character after gaining a lot of popularity from Marvel and DC and a big following. And then he brought their fans over to his cool character. Is Batman this cool? maybe, sometimes, never consistently this cool, never consistently this interesting looking. And that's why he's got the success and he's got the following. So as Bleeding Cool says, they've been noticing a recent uptick in direct market comic store sales across the board, above and beyond where sales were pre-shutdown. We can only use anecdotal evidence right now, but it seems to be a consistent pattern from comic book publisher to comic book publisher, with sales bumps like this more and more common. Could this be the turnaround the industry needed? Could DC have contracted too soon? Will others reap the spoils instead? DC is aware of what's going on, in that the comic book market is a terrible business model, unfortunately, the comic book stores. Selling direct to consumer, like Comicsgate and through other crowdfunding platforms, that's viable. People are doing it. They're making money. They're putting out more titles. They're pleasing fans. They're getting people interested in comic books and comic book characters again. And they're surprisingly non-political, surprisingly successful ones. There's an occasional successful one on Kickstarter that has a bunch of different weird political themes occasionally, or some real oddball thing that they do. It's like, that's fine. But is it going to consistently create interest? No, because it's political. This is character-based. That's why it's successful. That's why it's consistently successful. So I met Todd McFarlane like back in maybe 93 or 94, something like that, at one of the industry trade shows. And, nice guy, focused on producing his stuff, hardworking guy, and that's it. He's got his nose to the grindstone. He's producing a great idea. So there's two elements in producing successful comic books. Number one is having a cool concept. You may have a concept that you think is cool, that you're really passionate about, but that just doesn't resonate. People just don't like it the same way, and it fails, or it does much less success than you think it should do. If that happens, give up on it. Work on something that you're passionate about that is also commercial, that people like. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm sure Todd McFarlane has an unlimited number of other cool ideas he'd like to work on, but this one works. So he's focused on this one. And he's done some other things, and he'll get around to maybe doing some other things, or maybe not. But the number one thing is to have a cool concept that resonates. The second thing is to deliver. You have to deliver. If Spawn 300 had come out and it was terrible, or if Spawn 189 came out and it was terrible, or Spawn number 1 came out and it was terrible, or you could kind of see it was a cool idea, but he rushed it and the concept wasn't executed well, and really didn't deliver on the promise of the idea, it's not going to do well. Consistently, the first thing might get out and people might be like, all right, it was good, hopefully it'll be better next time. You don't want to be in that situation. So that's Todd McFarlane's other secret to his success, is he starts with a cool idea that actually resonated, that worked, people liked, and then he just kept putting it out and putting it out and putting it out since freaking 1992. That's since before a lot of people were born. They're probably listening to this right now. 1992 was a while ago. Look how many hundreds of comics he produced just on this character. How many people for generations know that if they buy Spawn, it's going to be pretty cool, and they essentially know that the inside of the book is going to look like the cover and be just kind of cool and interesting. That's his secret. So that's what you need to do. And if it's something that you want to do as a passion project for yourself and it just doesn't really resonate, do what you want to do for your own amusement and for things that you want to interested in doing. But to make a business of it, what you're doing has to resonate and be successful. And by resonate is not just that someone retweets it. You got to get decent sales on it and a decent response from consumers that they're interested in it. That's success in the business, is you come up with something cool, you see that people actually like it, and then you do more of it. And if you do something and people don't like it and it's not successful, then you don't have to keep doing it. You can just do something else. It's fine. It's like changing your mind. You're allowed to change your mind. You can certainly change what you're working on if it's not successful. Speaking of my projects, this project has been very successful. Check it out. collegeofthedead.com, Graduation Day. That's the second in the ongoing series. And it's a story about college students getting caught up in a zombie apocalypse while they're on campus. It's really cool. It's really well written. It's really well drawn. This was a passion project of mine for a couple of years, and I'm really excited that we finally got to do it. And now we're producing book 3, College of the Dead Spring Break, coming out soon. And we're also going to be releasing soon The Mermaids at epicmermaids.com. So sign up to be on the email list so we can send you an email when it gets launched. It'll be launched pretty soon. It's getting to be close to October now, so pretty soon. And we'll send you an email on it. And really, it's like Game of Thrones with mermaids. It's very interesting. It's really well written, and the art is beautiful. The guys did a really good job on it. All right, I'll see you again soon with another video. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.